Were you working electrical?
Yep. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start. Let's start with the president, or sorry, with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask former Mayor Haley to give us the pledge today.
Ah, thank you. I'm honored. Let's take a second. We're pretty lucky living here. Pretty lucky to live in this country, this California. Pretty lucky to live in Corona, where we can say what we want to and do what we want to do, kind of. So let's pledge our allegiance to where we live. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the city council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver the card to the city clerk at the end of the table. Prior to the item being heard by the city council, please observe a 3-minute limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, we request that you state your name and city of residence for the record. So our first item is communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment only on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, we request that you state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards for communications from the public?
Mayor, I did not receive speaker cards for communication from the public.
All right, great. So we will jump right into our first agenda item, which is our utility box art program. And it's like Ms. Tracy Martin is here, our CIP project manager. Present the report.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing?
Great.
Very good. So we came back to you guys back in January to discuss just some general guidelines for what we found out about utility box art programs around. And we took your feedback and we kind of, shaped it and formed it into something that we think you will like to proceed with, but that's what we're here to find out. Let's see. There we go. Oops, too much. Okay. So today's ask is that we'd like you to review and provide feedback on the proposed utility box art program kickoff. And if anyone has a suggestion on a name for the program aside from the utility box program art kickoff, that would be fantastic.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that. So today's presentation will discuss some of our action items since we met last in January, program goals, some kickoff activities, estimated costs, proposed funding sources, and a proposed timeline. So since we met last January, we took the information and questions you guys asked and information feedback you provided. We updated some quotes that we got from local vendors, so we gave them our actual dimensions on our rafts or boxes to get quotes. We contacted the Corona Art Association. I spoke with Lorraine DeGroza there. They're very excited about this program. They actually have their 60th anniversary coming up next year, so it's really good timing for them. And then we developed a proposed, some kickoff activities and guidelines for our first year program. So what we would like to propose for year one is that we beautify 7 boxes with vinyl wrap. We'd like to use local artists, of course, and all areas in the city would be eligible except the downtown. We're very specific about waiting for that plan to develop. We provided you guys with a handout, some potential selected locations if you'd like us to focus on those areas, or if you guys want to leave it open to what the artist would suggest. We're looking for a little bit of direction on that if you guys had any preference on that or not. And this is what the program would look like. We'd do a call for artists. We'd ask them to submit a brief biography.
Hey, Tracy, real quick before you move on, I know we have a lot more boxes than this. What's the search image here?
I want to say there's about 170 locations. Right. So I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
No, I'm saying, are they? I know, like, there's in one place where there's 4 boxes that are different sizes for different things.
Correct.
Are we counting those? Are we only counting a certain size box, or is 170? Because it seems like there's a lot more than 170 boxes. Or the only one kind of box?
Right now, the focus on the 170 is primarily the controllers at the intersections,
Traffic signal
traffic
controls.
signal controllers. And if the artist would want to propose anything separate, we'll look into that as well. So go for the different sizes. But right now, we're just trying to focus.
These are just intersection boxes.
Intersection boxes.
Are those the bigger ones like pictured here?
Correct.
And they're all the same size.
I believe there's two main sizes, but we would have those dimensions for the
There's,
artist.
there's a bunch of different kinds of boxes. They're all over the
There's
place.
transformer boxes, there's irrigation controllers, there's lots of fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just for the purposes of this, we thought those are some high traffic locations, you know, at every intersection where there's a signal. So that was the thought behind it, but.
Okay.
I think this one is a really kind of a starting project. We want to just
Correct.
kind of get a chance to see how it works out, and then we can continue to expand it as we, go through time.
Great.
Really quick, also, you have the areas eligible except the downtown, but are those the ineligible areas in the downtown? Is that very specifically defined? I mean, I don't want someone to do something on, on Sixth Street and it's too close to the downtown, or, like, do you have the streets all locked out, coordinated out so that?
When we prepare the materials to go out to the public, we'll be a lot more specific, and ultimately the city's gonna say, this is where this is gonna go.
Okay.
We're gonna approve final locations regardless of what's suggested.
So why not, I'm gonna ask you a silly question. Why not downtown?
Oh,
We
during our-
talked about it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm blanking out on it.
Because,
You remember something?
No, listen,
I
I'm,
think the plan was still in formation, you guys wanted to wait and
Oh,
see
yeah, okay, that's
how
right.
it turned out.
All right,
And see
yeah.
if it would go with it.
see, I forgot something.
It's first time in 3-4 years. No, it's all right, you're allowed.
Ms. Edwards, can you officially note that the
You're
mayor
allowed
forgot
one.
something?
1 in 4 years, there we go.
Okay.
You're very good, I don't remember what I did yesterday or the names of my kids. So we'll have them submit we'll do a call for artists, say, hey, if you're a local artist, we'll reach out through the Corona Art Association, but we also want to put it out to any amateur artists or, even kids. I've seen some really great artwork from high school students as well. So we'll do a call for artists, through social media and all that good stuff, and ask them to just submit a little brief biography on themselves, a draft picture or an actual picture of the artwork if they already have something they'd like, and their desired locations. Now, again, it's subject to our final approval as a city. Next step would be, once we get those submissions in, we'll have a deadline, and we'll have the city staff review them, make sure there's all, appropriate, there's no profanity, it's age appropriate, those types of preliminary screenings, and we'll narrow those down for your final approval. After that, we'll solicit sponsors, and the thought here being is that if you have something ready, they'll know what they can sponsor. I'm gonna pay for that, I like that piece of art, I'm gonna pay for that. And then after we get the sponsors, we'll recognize the artists and the sponsors at a council meeting. And then after that, we'll kind of take note. What happened, what went well, what didn't go well? Was there a lot of interest? Was it, we have so many people overflowing, we need more than 7 boxes? Or, what worked well, what didn't work well, and then make adjustments after that.
Okay.
And if it's a matter of, hey, we want more locations, or we want the different boxes, then that's something that we could consider.
Sure.
I would suggest that with the biography, because when we're talking about selection, right, you're going to review the submission, and the only submissions that they have is a biography and a picture. And I would hate for this to become a popularity thing. What I would rather want to see is maybe the artist's motivation for the art piece.
Okay.
I think a biography is a great idea as background when we're talking about who won and give them kudos. But what was it
What
that
does it mean
motivated
to
you? What does it mean?
What was their
to you?
inspiration
What is your
or-
inspiration?
Okay.
How does it connect to the
Absolutely.
city?
Like that.
Some sort of prompt that is a little bit more uniform.
Understood.
That's
We
good.
can definitely make that.
this represents the struggle of the butterflies.
Okay, stop, that's quiet.
Sorry.
Side talk.
So here's the cost and proposed funding. So in speaking with the Corona Art Association, they were very eager to participate. We asked them what an amount for a stipend would be, and they suggested $300. We factored in some staff time for handling the information and review and coordinating with the vendor for the wrap. The actual cost of the wrap and digitization is about $2,000, so we're at about $2,600 per box. 7 boxes, $18,200. What we're proposing to kind of kick off the program is that the city sponsor the cost for the first box. So that way we could pick the first piece of artwork, we pick our first location, and we say, hey, do you want to do this? Look what we did. So it'd be city paying for the whole first box, $2,600, and then doing the cost share, just because we don't know participation-wise, if it's gonna be very popular or not. So it would require about $10,000 from the city, which could come from the general fund. And then the other 6 boxes, $1,300 per box from.
Do I have a quick suggestion?
Sure.
When we have a sponsorship, it kind of falls in 2 different categories, and I'm putting my business person's hat on. One is I'm doing it as advertising, and I know we can't do advertising. But secondly, if there's a way to write it off, and one of the avenues that the city has done in the past, they partnered with a nonprofit, like for parks, it's been the Corona Parks Foundation. I'm curious whether or not we could partner.
Funnel things through them.
Funnel things through either them or through the Corona Art Association or somebody else, basically, that they would act as the contractor for us. So that instead of it coming to us and then that business not being able to identify a write-off for it, it would be, I think you'll have greater participation.
Okay. We can definitely look into that. I know if we're gonna have artists from the Corona Art Association participating, maybe that's not the best one, but maybe the parks,
Yeah,
partners
okay.
with parks could
Sure.
work for that.
And is there a way to, roll this out with, I would imagine that we'd probably get our marketing team, our communications team to do a little video and put that out as sponsor, but is there a way to actually have direct sponsorship request letters? I would imagine letting, for instance, our service clubs know that this is an option if they want to sponsor a box. I would also imagine that some of our top employers in the city.
The Rotary, Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, and just thinking of a standard letter, this is a new thing that's happening, if you want to participate and invest in the city, this is a great way to do it. It would help us get the word out, and we'd probably end up with some, all 7 taken care of in the first year.
Absolutely, happy to do that. When we do the call for sponsors, we can
Yeah.
definitely target those
I mean,
individual groups.
my thought for this thing was that, and I've seen this in other cities and on those boxes. In fact, I took some pictures this weekend in different places. But where I saw it was there were businesses that didn't like the fact that they had a big giant box in front of their place, and there was one that did it if you were standing in front of their business on one side, it looked like you were looking down the street. They just took a picture and put it on the box, so it looked like it just kind of blended in. And then they did it the other way, and it was really just, it looked like it was the corner of their building.
I'd be the person walking into the box.
Yeah, right.
But that was kind of my thought, because there was somebody had asked me, and really where this came from was a resident that said, look, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in my front yard, and I have this ugly box. Can I paint it green? Can I wrap it? Can I whatever? And I started thinking about it, and then that's where kind of the idea came from. So I think this is a great idea to push that forward, but I also want to make sure that if this works out well, that we can open it up to people that go, hey, can I just take care of the one in front of my house or the one in front of my business and find an option how to do that?
That's what one of the agencies found. They had initially targeted a specific area, and they had so much interest in it from private residents. They said, I want the one in front of my home done. Can I have
Right.
it done?
But we'll have to bring back a report at the end of the sort of pilot project and let you know how it went. We can look
Yeah,
at
I think
next phase.
we're the 7 are going to go.
Quickly,
Yeah.
but that's great.
That reminds me, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but the
I'm sorry,
timeline on it
Josh.
is a year. I kind of feel like that's a long time for 7 boxes. I mean, is there wiggle room that we could move a little bit quicker if?
I always like to under-promise and over-deliver, so we would definitely try to move faster than that. There's just some few things. Usually, you're right, the wrapping of the boxes or even getting the artist on board probably isn't the problem. But getting some of the legal paperwork and the releases and the, all the fine details in place, I just want to make sure we have enough time. We'll definitely try to move it fast.
Great. Okay, yeah, and I did call around to a few people and asked about the installation, and there were some people that were cheaper, but it also depends on what kind of box and
The dimensions, are we wrapping the top and all 4 sides?
yeah, and then what are the angles like? Are they hard angles? Are they
Digitization of it,
Right,
so
yeah.
fun stuff. This is using a local company too. So.
Right? Yeah, I think I ended up talking to them.
I bet you could go out and 3D scan those boxes
Yeah.
and get dimensions.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be great.
Great.
Can citizens ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Yes, sir.
We got a public comment now?
Yeah.
I think I heard that if Acme my favorite company, Acme Incorporated, wants to do this, it's not a tax deductible item?
Not if they're paying the city.
We have Wile E. Coyote splattered on.
Well, that's why
Now
I
that
use
you
it
bring it
actually,
back,
yeah.
But it was a good idea that if you use a nonprofit, it's.
Yes,
not-
that was my point of using,
A
running this to a nonprofit, so it could be.
So if we donated money, say, to the, I don't know, the YMCA,
Sure.
okay, and then they sponsored the box, that would be okay?
They're nonprofit.
Yeah,
We'll explore that, absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Roadrunner on one side.
Well, I didn't want anybody to get fooled, I mean, because I think I'd be the first one to sponsor, but if it's not a tax deductible item, it's like, you know. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll make sure that we include that information to check with their tax advisor. This is the proposed timeline, as we stated, we'll try to get done sooner, but this is just a rough timeline. If you guys are good to proceed with this, or if the council would like to proceed with this, we will request funding for the project in the next quarterly update. We'll do the call for artists, select the artwork, and move forward. So we would like to get your feedback and get approval to proceed with the utility box art program kickoff.
Okay, great. Tom?
Great presentation. I didn't need that. Corona Art Association, I'm very excited for them. Thanks for reaching out to them. I think Jackie's onto something with like a video documentary, how this all came about, and if it's a success, you can really promote it as a success, and it's a win for the city. Just throwing out some crazy ideas. How young do you go with someone that designs? Like, do you go all the way to elementary school, or do you stick at the high school level or junior high? But just something to consider. And then I think it would be cool if, I don't know how you manage this, but Troy Lee is a pretty famous artist in our city. It would be nice if he could do one. And then if someone could reach out to that Wyland whale guy, because he's just in Laguna, right?
It's $1 million thing.
But he might,
Tony knows Banksy, so.
he might donate a design.
Do you know who Banksy is?
And then just out of my peak of interest, maybe one box in the future that just has all the old city logos on it. That's it for me.
Jim?
No, I like the idea of us doing the first one and then going from there and seeing what kind of excitement is out there surrounding it. I think we're gonna get a lot of people stepping up and wanting to sponsor half. And no, I'm really excited about it. I think it's a good start, and we'll see where it goes.
See where it takes us.
Shucky.
I like this plan. I think just promoting art in the city is fantastic, and then having everyone, when you can have an ownership over a piece of the city, you just take pride in your city in a different way. So every which way that we can connect with residents, connect with the businesses or the nonprofits or the service clubs that are here is a good thing. I do want to see, not the final prompt, but changing that requirement or adding to that requirement, what the artwork means to you or what's your motivation, so that we're selecting based on criteria of like the art itself and not the artist. And then lastly, I don't understand quite yet exactly how it is. So we're gonna have an open submission for artists. So say we get 15 art pieces, and then we will have a selection of the top 7 of those art pieces, and then we will sponsor the very first one and then put out a open call for anyone to sponsor these other 6. Is that how that's gonna go? Okay. And then the other 40,
If the other ones are
whatever, are gonna,
great, we can keep them for the next round. If that's something that we want to do, we'll just put it
Okay.
on.
Or
And
allow people to pick the one they like.
and could folks come in and say, yes, I wanna sponsor a box, but I don't like any of the top 7, can I see the other 40? Okay,
You can hand them a map and say, drive around and find a box.
okay. And so is this a project that you're going to be managing? Or someone?
For the first
For the
year.
first year?
We'll go ahead
Yeah.
and get it off the ground and try to get a good foundation for it, and then we'll see where it really belongs, or
Yeah.
it might be multiple departments, because we're on the tail end, so to speak, with
Yeah.
the actual wrapping of the operations of the box.
Then I'm really
Community
comfortable with a year.
services is great at outreaching to the community.
It's
So
already
perhaps
starting.
there's an opportunity to partner with them.
No, but I really am comfortable with a year long for that reason. You have so much going on and you've been working so hard on our parks and, everything else that you've got on your plate, so a year is totally okay. And then once we figure that out, we'll get in the groove of it, so.
It'll be a good opportunity to kind of catch the workload as we go through this too and figure out exactly what.
Yeah.
What's
intensity of it all
involved
is.
There's so many
Yes.
variables, it seems like there's a lot of moving parts, so, thank you.
I think it's great. I think the only feedback that I have is there's a lot of different, like, dimensional boxes. And I would imagine that, and I can't do this because I'm not an artist, but I would imagine that somebody could look at something based on its shape and kind of come up with something. So I don't want someone to be turned away because the specific design they have is for a specific box that may not be part of the first 7. So just, play that by ear and see what happens, because again, they're gonna look at something and say, I think that's a X.
I have a feeling we'll get a lot of feedback about, I'd like to do this, people that, these are people that think outside the box,
Yeah.
and then we're trying to put them in the box.
In the box.
And, we'll get some ideas at the end of it to be able to say, here's some suggestions for
There's the
expanding
name of the program, the On the Box program.
beyond the box.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And I think my only comment was just from maybe a little bit of a cost savings idea that I know we get a ton of graffiti on these boxes. And I noticed that, because I watch the existing boxes that we have are on Foothill and a couple other places. And I religiously, because I'm a crazy person, watch every single C-Click fix that comes in. And I've only seen one in 3 years on a wrapped box. So I wondered, just that fact alone, getting them wrapped, that we're gonna save some money. So I don't know I know we keep records of all this stuff, if we could tell how much money we've spent on graffiti cleanup on some of these boxes, that, maybe we can, find a way to justify it a little bit more in the budget instead of it just being a,
It's a cost offset to the
yeah,
graffiti.
that's why I love that. That's my second favorite word, was
We can look at
cost
that.
offset. Okay, all right, Ms. Edwards, do we have any speaker cards, or would anybody like to speak?
I do not have any speaker cards.
Okay, anyone? All right, great, so I think you got 5 thumbs up.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you so much.
One of those descriptions, that
Okay, so we're gonna move on to second item, which is Performing Arts Center feasibility study. Mr. Jason Last, the Recreation Services Director, will present the report.
Thank you, and it's always our pleasure to be here. And man, what an exciting agenda today. I just love the
Oh, good
community,
stuff.
the culture, the arts. This is my language here. Today, we're just bringing forward a quick and simple ask for a very complicated topic. But we essentially just want to ask what we want to do in terms of looking at the feasibility or conducting a feasibility study for a performing arts center here in Corona.
Got it?
You got it. Okay. I was just like, wow, it's moving by itself. All right.
Just read your mind.
Got to keep up with it here.
Just read your
All
mind.
right. So a little background, and pictured here is not our own historic civic center, but a beautiful location. It's the Landmark Theater building on 6th Street there. I just think that's such a beautiful display. But I digress. But really what we're looking at is on behalf of our community stakeholders. And their interests, and what a high-performing city looks like, and what type of spaces we provide for them to gather in meaningful activity. So the question came up, why does Corona need a performing arts center? For many, our historic Civic Center Theater, located here, has been enough. It's rich in history, it's a beautiful display in traditional architecture, and has played host to numerous events over the years. It might need a little work here and there, that's true, but it's something we can shine up with a little investment. And actually this year we're looking at celebrating its 100th anniversary with some very intentional programming and a few more bells and whistles here to jazz it up. But where are we going to go beyond that? Don Kindred, who is here behind me here, he penned a beautiful article that was published in the Chamber newsletter titled "Call for Corona's Own Performing Arts Venue." And in this article, he acknowledges, well, A, our theater is truly lovely, but also that as our communities continue to grow, our arts organizations are continuing to gain in talent. And we have a need and desire for culture, arts, and to attract more talent to our community while also celebrating those that come from within. So, under the strategic plan, we have a pretty simple task at hand, and that's just to understand, what our existing resources are, what our gaps in service might be, and explore what our options are or could include. I mean, does this mean looking at our existing facilities? Does it mean repurposing structures, developing a property, working in partnership, perhaps with our faith-based groups or our schools, building new facilities, or even looking at an outdoor amphitheater? I mean, it's a broad topic to explore, and we're only at the tip of the iceberg today. And we want to bring this forward to you now because we need to objectively understand what is truly best for the interest of our community and what the best approach would be to understanding what could be a very complicated topic, but also understanding there's different perspectives in our community, whether it's art organizations, whether it's the users of a facility like this. What does that mean for our social development? What does that mean for our economic development? Because we want to make sure there's sustainability measures included as part of that. And I have to acknowledge too, we have a beautiful theater. The first day I walked in there, I was just smitten with how amazing it is and how much potential it has. And do we want to look at reinvesting in this space and maybe developing a true theater art program? Right now we're maintaining it as a reservable community arts facility, but really on a reservation base. Or do we need something in between, intentional use and programming, but also allowing for community gathering and presentations? So our first...
It was working so well.
It was, wasn't it, Ann?
I held it for too long there.
There we go. So really, we're asking for a feasibility study, and that's the first step to understanding a very unique request. And it's very simple, and it is low risk for us at this point, to understand what could potentially be a very large project. And it allows us to intentionally ask some very key questions to understand who we as Corona want and what do we need for us as we plan for our future. Feasibility study would provide a fair, equitable, and transparent means to explore this question while engaging our community in more fully understand their unique perspectives. Of course, we also want to know what this means from a larger regional standpoint. I mean, what is that social impact? What is that economic standpoint? Who would come to this on a grander stage? And could this be a claim to fame? Is this need met elsewhere? These are all the big picture questions we need to ask at this point. So I won't go too far into the scope of service, but essentially we just need to ask, the who, what, when, where, and why, all those key questions, kind of develop a map, a framework, a deeper understanding from an expert standpoint. And again, to really ask those broad questions, but also to kind of look at things from a multifaceted standpoint. What works for one art group might not work for another art group. What types of entertainment do our community want to see? I mean, do we want to see big, large outdoor festivals? Do we want to see opera? Do we want to see stand-up comedy? I mean, there's all kinds of different things that can go into a place like this. And as we plan for the years ahead, these needs will change, and we need space that can keep up with that. And only as a rough estimate, something like this would have a sticker associated with it. We're seeing right now in our master plan process that some of these bids are coming back a little bit higher. But today we're not asking for any type of appropriation, only to conduct an RFP to see how much something like this would cost. And then we bring back a recommendation to you, whether we think this is worthwhile, is this answering the questions we're asking. Is this within our means? This is all something we would want to explore. This is only that first baby step to exploring a much bigger topic. And timeline-wise, well, we know our stakeholders, we know our community, we know our tradition and our history here. But today we're just really kind of seeking direction. How far do we want to take this? Do we want to go out to bid to get maybe an expert opinion? And if we continue down that road, what will that look like? This will take some time, but we want to make sure we're making an informed decision. All right, and the ask is, again, whether or not we want to conduct that feasibility study. The options before you are really to take no action, service remains as is, nothing changes, or we can begin that first step to exploring that topic. All right, and I think that's really it. I mean, we're trying to keep it short and simple in terms of the ask point. And Anne, I think I feel some comments brewing on your side, and I also feel the energy of some of our community stakeholders in this room who might have some comments to add. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, no, what I would say I think is most important for us at this point is to understand the direction about whether or not you want to move forward with this. And for us, that means an allocation of staff time, but it also means bringing in a consultant from our bandwidth standpoint to do this justice. There's a series of questions and they're multidimensional. One is not only about the physical venue, but how the venue is supported, whether that's an internal management of that venue or that's an external management of that venue. Are these venues designed to be rental spaces for the community? So I can rent a theater with 1,500 seats, or I can rent a theater with 500 seats, or are they designed for us to have like a performing arts season? So much like some of the theaters we see in like Temecula or Cerritos, that somebody gets that's managed by an outside company and we have a season of performances. And so you come to that theater and that theater has a season of performances, and then outside of the season of performances, it's used for either performance preparation or other things. So I think in simultaneous to talking about the physical space, we also need to have somebody help orchestrate the conversations to help us talk about the philosophy of space use. And that becomes really important for us. I think one of the challenges as we look from a community services standpoint at the use of facilities is clear direction from this council about how you want your facilities used. Any facility is rentable. If it's just like, hey, I want this room, here's this room, this is what that looks like. But it's how we want those spaces used and what the philosophy driving that use is. So I just think that because of the layers that are involved, having somebody who this is their expertise and this is what they do all the time and they know the right prompts and the right questions to ask will help us provide to you some feedback that could direct your next steps.
Okay, great. Tony, do you want to go first?
Yep. So I wanted to go first because I wanted to cement myself in reality here for a second. Here's my problem with this, and it's got nothing to do with the arts. The problem is that potentially spending $250,000 to come up with a plan, and I've driven this city a bunch of times, and I can't see a performing arts center being successful anywhere in this city because of land availability. And what I would hate to do is spend $250,000 on a study that goes nowhere. And there's some folks in the room today that would love to have a performing arts center, as would I. I just think that realistically, I can't see it happening in Corona because they require land that we don't have in an area that would actually be accessible. I've looked up and down the 15 freeway and I just think of all the traffic nightmares. And what I don't want to do is say that we're doing this study and then nothing comes of it, because that seems to have been a reoccurring theme in this city that nobody seems to like.
Not the last 3 years.
Huh? Not the last 3 years, you're right, but
I was gonna say, I got a lot of plans going. There's a lot of things happening.
pragmatically, I don't see where a theater could be successful of this magnitude.
I think that's part of the question.
No, I'm getting there.
But I'm thinking that's the question is, and no offense to your expertise, but
Limited.
there's your expertise in driving on the city, but we hope to hire somebody to figure out. It's not you don't hire somebody to say, oh, by the way, we're going to pay you $250,000 and we want you to give us A, B, and C answer.
No, I get that. What I'm getting to is that I'm more interested, and I don't know how that RFP looks, about utilizing the historic auditorium more so. So I was looking at, data on how much the theater's actually been used, and I went through 2000. I only went to 2019 because I know 2020 and 2021, we're trying to forget. But I wanted to get an actual snapshot of the actual usage of the theater. And I think that that's a much more viable option when we're thinking about the RFP, is how do we turn the space that we have into something that's usable, better suited for what we're trying to do and trying to grow? Because I just don't see an actual performing arts theater being successful in our community, because I can't see where we're gonna build it. I could totally be wrong. I just think that we have a better opportunity with the theater that we have. And so as I'm thinking of the RFP, that's kind of the direction that I would like to see, is how do we make that work?
We can definitely, so I think there's lots of options. I mean, if we decided even to go forward, and unfortunately, that $250,000 number is out there, and I think that's just because,
It's on the study, you put it there.
Yeah, well, no, because it came, but that's where we ended up with the
Sure.
Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which was the most recent plan that we did. But I think what's important about developing an RFP that really works is that you talk about options, phases, scope, and then you can look and see what you really want to do, right? So I usually RFP, when I'm writing an RFP or a scope of work, I write big, huge, and just see what comes back, see if, could I get everything that I ever wanted in my price range? Most usually the answer is no. And then we start going through and looking through exactly what we want and what we have. And definitely within both our, when we talk about the potential scope of the feasibility study, so I'm not, okay, I'm going the wrong way. Oh, this clicker. Well, anyway, there was a slide there, honestly, swear, that said potential scope of feasibility study, and it talked about whether we were going to be using, thank you. So here we go. We talk about this data map. So first, I think part of what we would say in the scope is that we want to identify the market, and then are we looking at really even a new building, or are we looking at renovating our current, what we have currently? And I think that's a key question in the scope.
And I think a data map would also be regional too. So, what are we also in proximity to in neighboring communities or as part of Southern California? What does that rich tapestry look like? And, is there a place or intersection? Is there a size that would be optimal for Corona? I mean, it might just be our theater now, or it might be partnership or developing property. But that's really that first step, is to understand what that map is.
And to understand that, I think, and the arts organizations that we've spoken to prior to bringing this to you all have different needs. So they've all said different things. So it wasn't like we got one resounding, I want this. We didn't. We talked to one organization, they were like, I think it should be this. And we talked to another organization, they're like, I think it should be this. And, so we need some help in the community outreach piece for sure, and working with those organizations so that we're representative of all of the arts organizations in Corona, not just some of them.
I definitely want to be inclusive of everybody. I'm just overly cautiously optimistic, because what would like to be done is very, very pie in the sky that I just don't see as being feasible. And I don't want to let any of our arts community down by doing a study that goes nowhere.
Before you do it.
Well, I think that we'll ask those questions in the study, and we would, before anything would ever be done, we'd bring that study back to you and bring those things back to you, and you can decide what you want to do.
Tom?
Yeah. I think in the past, and this is many, many years ago, there have been some plans for downtown revitalizations, and they end up getting shelved. There's been one or two of them, right? And they adopted a horrible one that just never happened.
Thank God.
Yeah. And so now there's some gun shyness, right? And the truth of the matter is they were just horrible plans. And really, they were just never vetted, and they should have been shelved, and they should have been thrown away. I wouldn't even put them on the shelf. But I don't think, because you've had previous plans, and I hear this all the time with downtown revitalization, we can't do it because we've already tried planning before, and so it's just like, okay, let's give up. let's stop. You don't. You have to paint a vision, and you have to have vision, right? If you don't have vision in life, then you're not living life right. So I think to put out a request for proposal, an RFP, I think our city can sustain a performing arts city. I think we're close to 170,000 people, which we've never been in the past. I think if you talk to the right consultants, then you get accurate information. If it's 250,000 or 125,000, whatever it is, you pay that money to paint your vision of a city. And by the way, if you do put out an RFP and you do go forward with the plan, now you have the next step of implementation, right? You have something to roll right into. So you have a decent plan in place and you're no longer building a city hall on a football field. You plan to do it in the right way, in the right place, in the right location. So I'm all for going forward with the RFP.
Kim?
Yeah, this is way past due, so I'm ready to move forward.
Jackie?
Say
what I need to say.
You know, I think this is necessary in the fact that we've been tiptoeing around it and talking, well, not even tiptoeing, we've been talking about it for so long that we just need to be able to answer the question. Like, is this a thing that we want and need and can have? And then once the question is answered, then we can talk about everything else. But I'll tell you that there was a sticker shock with the price. And so I wonder if we can get really strategic about the scope. You know, the questions that we're actually asking, which is, in my eyes, what I really want to know is, you know, what is around us? Will Corona fill a demand that no other city in the region is doing? And if so, what does that look like? I don't want us to do the Fox Performing Arts Center over again, right? But if we have a performing arts center, is the size unique? Is the location, you know, strategically placed? You know, the kinds of shows that can be shown there, are they different than what will be shown somewhere else? And will it allow us, ideally, this study to think about, you know, maybe trends in performing arts that's happening in other places that is yet to happen in this area. Because we're thinking about this from, you know, our vision of, you know, the arts that we have in the city of Corona, but there's arts outside of Corona, and there's trends happening in North California and out of state. You know, can we capitalize and maybe see some growing market and, you know, have a center that can house that. So I want us to see if we can get a little bit more strategic on the scope to ideally drive down that price of $250. Because I would feel more comfortable in the 100, 150 range
That's super helpful.
That's very
than in the 250 range. You know, if we can get in the 100 range, perfect, because that's,
If we can get it for free?
if we get it for free, even better,
We do like
even
that,
better.
yes.
But, you know,
That's
I
my
want to
preference.
know,
Somebody
like,
sponsor it.
for instance, if you're looking at the scope, right, identifying funding, maybe that's a step two process, right? Maybe that's something that once we decide, is there a market, is this a thing that we can sustain, then we can talk about, you know, infrastructure needs and financing and permanence. But I want to know whether or not, can we answer the question, does Corona need this? Can Corona sustain something like this? Is there anything like it around?
We could definitely develop an RFP in a way that it has a good core baseline level of services, and then we can ask, you know, give us some quotes for some other activities, and figure out where that ends up, and then we can figure out what's comfortable for the council to
And
spend.
then that would come back to us
Correct.
before we go out to bid.
We can have that conversation now beforehand.
I would
Sure.
love to have it, just because I want us to get a little bit more on the price tag.
And the reason why we're
We won't
here,
have that sticker.
absolutely, and the reason why we're here today, we just want to make sure that as we undertake this big project, that you really want to do it before
Yeah.
we move down the road
Oh,
too
I
far.
really want to do it. I want us to answer that question.
Okay.
So in doing the scope, we can do that. So I will tell you, I put out a scope of work for something and I got back $1 million when my budget was for a plan, when my budget was $100,000, right? So it is absolutely doable. You know, we refined it, we did stuff as alternates if we had money later on, and we, you know, so we can work with that. If we know sort of where that price point is, 100, 150, we can work with that, and we can also actually put that out in the scope itself. We have 100 and 150, this is what we'd like to do, and if we get back from the consultants, you can't do that for 150, then we can have those conversations with the bidders about, well, what can we do for 150? These are the most important things that we know right away, and this is the singular question that we want answered right away. So that's all very doable.
So yeah, we can definitely start looking at that and come back with more information as we get farther down the road. Again, tonight, we just want to make sure that you're comfortable with the project and we can start working on it.
So, you good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so for me, I think Councilor Casilla said it perfect. We've been asking this question now for years, and it's time for us to answer it. We need to, I get that all the time when you talk to people about what they want to see, and now we can actually answer it and say, yes, this will work, or no, we investigated this and it doesn't work. So we were able to ask the question. I'm not as concerned, I'll take us back. I'll take that back before I say it.
Oh, boy.
I am concerned about the money, but I don't want to go cheap and not answer the question.
Right,
So
that's true.
if it costs $250 to do something that we can take to someone and hand as a partner, a business plan, whatever, to go forward, to say, hey, look, if you want to invest in the city of Corona, here's what it's going to take, and this is what it is. I want to be able to do that, and I want to be able to hand it to somebody, and somebody to take it and be able to say, yes, I would like to invest in that. And to me, I see this as almost like a pro forma of whether or not you're going to invest in the city, and whether we're going to invest in the city. So I'm not as concerned about if the number is the number. I think as a consultant, I always tell people, look, I can give you the answer, or I can give you the answer and help you get to the finish line, or I can give you the answer, help you get to the finish line, help you build the project, and then do the end part, and all those have different prices. If you're fine with me getting you just getting to your permit, great, and you can take it from there, fantastic. But I think that's really the question. These questions are perfect. Those are the questions that I think if someone was going to spend their money, or they were going to convert a building, or they were going to build something from scratch, I would want to know these questions before I want to. Otherwise, we do have a document that doesn't do anything. It has to be able to meet that litmus test of, hey, okay, if this does, on paper, it says it makes sense, you're going to be able to hand it to somebody that does this sort of thing and looks at it and says, yes, I believe this, and I want to put my money behind it. So I'm less concerned about honing in the number and really answering all the questions. I think that it's time for us to grow up. Or this, in fact, I was talking to somebody today that had lived in Corona a long, long time ago, moved away probably 25 years ago, and they said one of the things that always drove them crazy about Corona is that Corona always thought it's 20,000 people. That it's a small little town. We're not a small little town anymore. We're 170,000. There's no reason that we can't have something like this and have it be successful. But I'm a proof guy. I'm a data guy. I want to have the data to be able to prove it, to show that we can do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. So before I'm guessing you kind of get the answer here, but I want to go to the public, and because I know we have some public here today. Ms. Edwards, do we have any speaker cards?
Here we do. We have one from Don Kindred and Joe Morgan.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, do I have a couple hours? The historic Civic Center Theater is a wonderful facility, but it seats 372. That's it. It's quite restrictive. The stage is quite small. But it's used by Christian Arts and Theater a lot. It's used by Off-Broadway Corona a lot, and many other facilities. We have a school of music. We use it from time to time too for our students to perform things like that. But anyway, yes, I think it's time to move up to the next level with a performing arts center. I've been looking at this vision for the last 10 years, and in a meeting we had with Jacob, I said, well, okay, 10 years ago, and maybe that was not the right time, but maybe today is. And I truly mean that. And there are organizations in Corona that could use it. There are professional organizations that would thrive and want to be here to perform. Professional organizations that would want to perform in a 1,100 seat performing arts center. And I think our population density warrants it. I think we're good now for this to move forward with a feasibility study and hopefully beyond that. There's been a paradigm shift in the music industry in the last 6-7 years. And that is that professional recording artists, they used to go on the road and perform, but that was a means to an end. The end was to sell records, sell CDs. They don't do that anymore because of live streaming. So the whole industry has turned 180 degrees. And so now there's more of a need for performing arts centers because they're not making any money on recordings. So, that's something to consider also. And I'm sure this would bear out in a feasibility study as well. So anyway, yes, thank you for your support on a feasibility study. And I look forward to the results of that.
Great, thanks, Don. Joe?
To Vice Mayor Daddario, of course it would work here, of course. I'm tired of Corona having a inferiority complex about other cities. Every other city has one of these. These are an enormous economic development benefit. I mean, I've sat in this room and heard stories about how much one single performance of at the theater over here brings in $10,000-$20,000 to the economy, like one night, just for people, hotel rooms and meals and just people coming to town just to watch the kids perform here. I mean, and say, well, we don't have room. That's another BS argument too. I mean, you guys just bought a grocery store for fun. It seems like there's a vacant lot at 6th and Main with a vacant building that's been empty for quite a while, and I think that would make an awesome place for one. Can you imagine building an arts district down there? And for FYI, Showcase, the recently demised or recently half collapsed Showcase Theater, used to be quite a well-known established venue here in Corona. So well-known nationwide acts used to come and play there. So we have supported one before, and whatever was going on with the Corona Mall wasn't conducive to that, but now it probably would be. This is long overdue. I mean, it's, and as far as what the money is, well, let's get to the RFP part. The core of this thing, I did this stuff as an undergraduate, so we could do this with low-level staff. You could do a data map with people that work here and don't get paid very much. So you could work with the School of Business at Riverside. I mean, I had assignments like this when I was going to UCR, so I did this stuff. So, you just put somebody on it, have them call. I did a project like this with a chamber. So this isn't exactly real high-level stuff. So you could probably get quite a bit for $150,000. You could probably get more for the $150,000 here in-house or hire some interns. But more importantly, just this is, look, if I had my choice about where Measure X money went, it'd be for this. This is a generational legacy thing. This is putting on the mark that we're a real city. This is one of the things that we've been missing as a city for decades. We're a city without a soul. We're a city without any sort of a cultural movement, any kind of cultural activity. We're this is it. The same place we had 100 years ago. It's laughable to think that that's suitable for a city that was 5,000 or 10,000 people here in 1922, and there's 170 here. It's pretty much every day is booked, and if somebody's playing music on the lawn out here, then that day gets scrapped for the theater because you can't use them at the same time. Lobster Fest cancels a play. That's ludicrous. It could be an outdoor venue. Redlands Bowl, something comes to mind. I mean, we could have something outdoor. But there's lots of options, but one option is not to not do anything about it. I mean, if we're going to spend some money, this is the place to spend it because it's going to come back 10 or 100-fold to the city. And it also brings in, it's one of the most important economic development lessons you can have. Companies want to locate in a city where the owners and the financiers and the workers want to live. So you bring quality of life here, you bring cultural activities, you bring something to the city that keeps people here and gives people things to do. That's why you get businesses coming here. It's not just all about permits. It's not just all about easy land. It's about amenities that bring people here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I just put in for a card as well. Next week, Chris and I, the lovely Christine, and I are going to go to see Angel City Chorale in Los Angeles. Kind of cool, huh? But they're gonna be performing at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, so we're gonna either have to stay over Saturday night or drive home and stay here. So we're gonna spend money in Los Angeles. So what I wanna do is I wanna take a look at this and not in my, just a couple of seconds here. I don't wanna talk about the actual structure, because I think Joe is incredibly eloquent and so is Don. What I want to do is I want to talk about the individual businessman and the individual citizens of Corona, what's going to happen. Because once we build this damn thing, we're not only going to have the CSO, okay, this is not going to be the CSO building, this is going to be the Corona building, whatever. But we're also going to be attracting different types of people. We're going to be bringing in rock and roll groups, okay? Just tours and stuff, and dance recitals and lectures. There's a lot of companies here who, because we're the corner of the 15 and the 91, this is like a gathering place, so that we can have Acme Manufacturing again, Acme, okay, with the Roadrunner and everything. But we can have Acme Manufacturing, because I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say Strong Electric. I'll get my ass in trouble. So when Acme wants to have a regional meeting, we can have a regional meeting here. John Wygant had a wonderful meeting, but where did he have to go? He had to go to a movie theater, put on this meeting, for the public. So I think this will serve the customers, the clients, the businesses of the city of Corona. And every time something happens in the city of Corona, we charge them. And what are we to do with that money is we now bring swing sets and all these other wonderful things here. So I think what we're doing is we're servicing the clients who are never going to go there. Because when my daughter comes up here from San Diego to go to a rock and roll concert, and she stays in a hotel, she's going to eat at restaurants. She's going to buy gasoline here. She's going to buy all these different activities, and that's all going to generate sales tax. So I think this is really and truly an investment in the city of Corona. It's not just an expense, it's an investment. Somebody had brought up the cost of the land. I say this. There are lots of cities, and Corona included, where a developer would come on in and see a section of land where it could be more, I'm not going to be politically correct, more properly used, okay? So they could go around to the different business owners and say, hey, listen, how about if you get this thing, and here, let me give you a couple of $100,000 for it. And we could have a joint venture to go on out and buy areas, buy land with individual investors. I know personally that you make a little bit of money buying real estate. Here's something else. This is my last deal. We need some space for people to do things in Corona that are from Corona, who live in Corona. Alexander Kent, 4.2 GPA, just graduated from San Diego High School. Cool, huh? Really cool? Right. Graduation ceremonies were held at the Honda Center in Ontario. Well, why the heck didn't we have it here? We could have it at the Civic Center over here. Oh, yeah, maybe we can bring in, 10% of the time and get them through. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. There's no place to meet here. The Chamber of Commerce occasionally has side meetings, and sometimes they have to go out of town because there's no place in Corona big enough to have something like that. The Chamber, the high schools, come on, we're talking about us here. We're talking about us. I think that this would be an outstanding joint venture between the city, and again, you're gonna have to get guys who are smarter than me with regards to books and taxes, etc. But I think that this should absolutely be done, because I think that there are some people who can have a vision. I think Jimmy used the word vision. Have a vision and make this thing work, because it's going to be for all of us. Only it's not going to be for Dick Haley. Hell, I'll be dead and gone. But it's going to be for Amanda, and it's going to be for the new little. the city baby, you know? Good name, the Eleanor, yeah, the Eleanor,
Sharing her with everyone.
maybe not, that might never. But the point I'm making is this, is I don't wanna look at just, I don't wanna be myopic and look at just the building. I wanna look at the gas stations, I wanna look at the restaurants, I wanna look at the hotels, I wanna look at all the ancillary places where people are gonna spend money. And they're gonna spend them here in Corona, and that generates more money, so we can buy more swing sets.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Great. So I'm guessing I got a thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
That it's gonna come back to us.
Yes, we'll bring it back with a budget change and then
Budget change.
further discussion of project.
Do some truthing and we'll figure it out.
Got it.
Perfect.
But yeah, I'd say we need to answer the question.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, okay, so move on to our last item, which is Historic Civic Center Fountain Update. And our tree warden, facilities, parks and trails manager, multi-hatted
I always
gentleman
wanna see
extraordinary.
Moses in like
Moses.
a ring, like in a hat, like an actual hat.
I looked for one afternoon after
It's
one of
gotta
these
be
meetings.
really cool, like Indiana
All
Jones.
I could find was, like, I wanted like a Mr. Ranger sir hat, right? I couldn't find one that wasn't for a kid. There
No.
also-
Yeah.
There wasn't an adult.
Indiana Jones.
I'll figure it
I
out.
think he's a fedora type of guy.
Oh, yeah, he could rock that easy.
It's not really an outdoor hat.
So, Moses,
It's a get stuff done hat.
will you please present the report?
Yes. Was that Barrett that was here?
Scott.
Alrighty, so I wanted to come back and present some updates regarding the historic Civic Center fountain. I know it was staff had brought it to you guys. Staff had brought it to committee of the whole previously, and we discussed a number of options and some initial direction. So where we are and what we're coming back today to ask is our next steps. So our next steps are going to be to remove the fountain and provide some options going forward that we can do long-term. But initially what we'd like to do is create a more usable space. Actually, I'm just going to kind of fast forward here. There we go.
Great.
So what we'd like to do is remove the fountain and provide a usable space. This is kind of a temporary thing while we look at a larger picture for the Historic Civic Center. These activities will just include just demolition of it, installing some irrigation. We will also install some electrical, so that way we can still put our holiday tree there for the holiday lighting. It's a relatively simple project, shouldn't take too long. It is included in our budget, and we would like to start the process mid-July and hopefully have it done in about 8 weeks or so, including the concrete. And then our next steps will be to, after we finish this phase one, is to come back with some ideas we have around a larger project that would include some interior upgrades to the historic Civic Center, including replacement of the carpet in the theater, resurfacing the stage, upgraded AV equipment, also some painting and possible tree replacements. And as well as coming back with some design concepts for a future project for the front lawn that would just kind of change the whole dynamic of the front and make it a little more usable space.
Would any upgrades to the theater, would those be started and finished this year?
They would be separate from this project,
Yeah.
but that we would come back one more time and include and provide those options to you of what we'd like to do going
So
forward.
now we're talking about celebrating the
Yes,
100th
the
year
centennial.
of the building, so.
So the project includes the carpet and other thing. We're gonna be doing that next year. We'll be doing that work, and then
Okay.
we'll come back to you next year before we get to the 100-year anniversary,
Great.
talking about a major project.
Okay, all right, awesome.
And when we talk about your calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal year, sorry. Yeah,
When is the 100 year?
Next year.
September 23.
Are we saying that the project for the historic civic theater would be in fiscal year
It'll be in this next coming
fiscal year
Fiscal year.
24?
No.
No,
23.
Coming up, the one coming up though.
we're starting in
July.
July.
July 1,
Oh, yeah. July. I was thinking June. I thought we were already in 23.
Almost there.
almost.
Okay.
So the ask is, it's more informational, but we did want to get your feedback and the ideas around it. Kind of let you know that we are working on it and that we plan to start getting the ball rolling on this.
Just want to make sure you know what's coming, that we're still working on things and we're taking chunks at a time.
I laughed because I walked, Councilmember Casillas and I and Councilmember Richens were in front of the building for the Memorial Mile March, and I ran into a couple of residents as we were walking, and they said, "Oh, where are you guys going?" I said, "We're going down to the." Yeah, I wanted to say we're going to the quad, but no one. I just wearing too much clothes. But the first, actually, I think 3 separate people said the same thing. Oh, you mean where the fountain is? Are you guys going to repair the fountain? I'm like, no, we're not going to repair the fountain. And everybody kind of went, oh. And then when you told them why, then they'd go, okay, yeah, I see it. So I think, there's going to be some pushback, I think, from the public when the project starts. But I think as long as we have a good narrative about, why we're doing it, and that we're looking forward to, making this really into that space where people can come together, and it's not just a place that you trip into or stay out of, when we do have an event. So, great. Thanks for bringing it.
Provide a more usable space.
Yeah, no, it's great. Tom?
I just have a couple questions. Where did the inspiration for the half circle come from?
So we just kind of figured it kind of has to do a little bit with the old driveway, but we were just talking about just instead of having a straight sidewalk, just
People will
straight up.
always cut the corner anyway.
It'll kind of give it a little wraparound, and then it still lets us center the tree in the middle for the holiday lighting.
Yeah, I tell you, I was there this weekend, and the first thing I did is you go up and you cut across the grass because you want to walk back and make a bunch of right angles.
I don't know what to say. So,
Don't say it, Tom.
yeah.
Share how you feel, Tom. Tell us exactly.
I feel like this is therapy.
Lay down.
I liked the straight shot, to be honest with you. Instead of the half circle, but I was just curious to see what you guys. I see like putting the tree in the center of the.
It's an aesthetic.
Well, and we still have more design work to do. This is just a
Yeah.
temporary sort of fix for the
It's
location.
literally just
It's just concrete.
getting rid of the fountain and
But I
getting the ball rolling.
understand why, well, anyway, there's gonna be Jim between us, but I have things to say about it.
Well, I talked to Jacob about it, and I said I like the straight shot, and I wanted to run the excavator when we ripped the thing out, and that was a no. And so, but on the other hand, there's some coolness to the half circle too. So I just gotta go with you guys, and wherever it goes, it's temporary, and there'll be a better design coming, and it will be cool to see a Christmas tree there, probably sleeve over.
A bigger tree. That's all
I'm on board.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
Jackie?
we're
Oh, sorry.
talking
I
here.
thought you were done already.
Give him 30 seconds.
I said, yeah, 30 seconds. No, start will be done with. No, I mean, you're just asking to spend a little money that's already in the budget to make an area look much nicer than it does now while we work on a bigger plan. Yeah, sounds good.
Wow, that was a really long way to get there. That was really involved for you there,
It's
Jim.
good.
Is it over yet?
Almost.
No, I really like this. Can you tell me though, when is the demolition going to happen?
So we'll probably start right after this. We gotta get to our 4th of July event. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping by mid to third week of July, you'll start seeing some fencing up around.
Okay.
As we get into the initial construction, and then we're actually demoing it probably right around the 1st of August.
Okay. So before the fall, we'll see.
Yeah, before the fall, it should be wrapped up.
Before the Christmas lighting.
Yes.
Or the holiday lighting, we'll see.
Even by Halloween weekend, we should have that all wrapped up.
Wonderful.
We should be done by that point.
Yeah, we should be done.
Yeah.
Concrete, fencing down.
Start knocking on wood, Moses.
I'll help out.
So I'll tell you, and I don't know if this is, I don't wanna speak for Tom. But, I too felt a certain type of way when I saw the half circle, just because we haven't actually had the conversation of what's going to go there, and I don't wanna lead, you know how you lead the witness? I don't wanna lead the design with this half circle of like, it's already there, so we should just do a drive and like have cars like it used to be, because I'm not in favor of that design.
Good thing we're not talking about that right now.
Well, and then the question is, when are we talking about it? Because I know that we also had that feeling
Jack and I are pretty
of
united.
things happened and or decisions were already kind of halfway made, and we're like, wait a second, we haven't actually had the discussion. And we had quite the discussion about, you know, what it is that we want to see there. So, so look, if this is truly temporary, that's great.
We will come back with.
If this is leading the witness
No.
or leading the design, and then I'm gonna see
Settle
we
down.
should, you know, then I'm gonna be upset. But no, I can see the half, the half,
Can you give us some time?
circle, and it, you know, being a nice frame for the tree, and then us getting something, you know, more concrete for the following, maybe the following calendar year.
That.
That was not intentional, but you got it. Yeah, because I do, and I just don't want that conversation to happen or to like pass us by without some real intention
And we'll
behind
come
it.
back with you guys with some
Please.
design ideas for the inside and a bigger
Please.
scope for the outside.
Please, thank you, I appreciate it.
Tony?
Really quick, so this area here, is this where you plan to have the tree, on the concrete?
That'll be on the grass.
In the house.
Okay, I would just be, I mean, since it's only temporary, I almost think that it should be like a little pad there, just so that tree doesn't sink or get off kilter, because you're gonna, I mean, I don't know how much grading you're gonna do to level that area, so I would just imagine that tree could tilt, just food for thought. And then what are you gonna do with all of the pumps and the fountain equipment? Are you gonna delete that? Or are you gonna vacate it and leave it there?
Yeah, okay. So
So
like
you're
the
gonna leave
pipe-
it?
The equipment will be removed eventually, but all the piping underground will be capped, slurry sealed, and
So you're gonna leave that until official design is done?
yeah, initially I can,
Well,
we'll
it's
get ready.
all old galvanized pipe, right?
Yeah, and some of that made.
That is stay.
Well, you don't wanna leave it in the ground.
There's lots of things left in the ground,
Wait,
including
it's down,
Put it down.
cap it.
there's supposedly a
A body? For how-
no, there's a
Oh, yeah, if you find the capsule,
there's a time capsule that's been lost.
yeah. Well, there,
Actually went under the gym.
There was actually a television show, and they came and they
Try to find it?
Wait, they did find the capsule?
no, they didn't
No.
find anything. They actually ground penetrated radar the whole thing and didn't find anything at all.
if you find the capsule, if someone can keep an eye out for it, because it did happen. It's somewhere on that field.
We'll stop all construction.
Tony, anything else?
No, that was it. I just concerned about the tree. I want a ginormous tree. Figure it should be a flat surface.
Yeah.
We'll find a way to make it safe.
Yeah.
Run a whacker.
I think it's fine. I think from a functional standpoint, when you watch people walk around down there, they, you know, having places for people to walk that isn't, you know, right angles is a great idea. I think it's fantastic, and I don't think we are leading anything.
Just
But
the best
I think it's functional. It'll be functional until we can figure stuff out. And I'm happy to. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I think.
I think people will be happy with it.
I think they will be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get any like.
That
oh,
fountain-
You're gonna.
about the,
No,
about
they're
the
gonna.
fountain going away.
No, I'm telling you, I ran them 2 or 3 random people when I was walking. Had no idea where we were going. First thing they brought up.
Want the fountain.
Yeah, but that's okay. So, I think the only thing I and I'm probably asking for Tom too, that when you guys do the tearing out, we don't want to participate, but it would be kind of cool just to be there to see it happen. And we promise not to enter the work
I
site.
make no promises.
So you have to have
Get your nice
TV there.
helmets on and all that Paul stuff.
Yeah, I'll bring my own hard hat, my own hard hat, and
It's all right.
my
We'll see.
vest.
I for sure wanna go.
That guy goes to lunch.
Yeah.
The key is the tractor.
All right, so I think that's
Helmet.
5 thumbs up with that, and let's see. So, Ms. Evers, any speaker cards? Okay. Anybody would like to speak last time? Go ahead. Okay. All right. So we are at adjournment. The next meeting is the meeting of the City Council on June 15th, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.